First official report of the Supreme Electoral Council of Nicaragua certified and validated the re-election of President Daniel Ortega after the general elections held on Sunday. On Monday, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov holds talks in Moscow with his Venezuelan counterpart Felix Plasencia. Sudan security forces repressed protesters who staged a new civil disobedience campaign against the army. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, this is from the south. I am Ray Gomez. We begin with the news. The first official report of the Supreme Electoral Council of Nicaragua certified and validated the re-election of President Daniel Ortega after the general elections held on Sunday. With a scrutiny of 49.25% of tallies, the Supreme Electoral Council informed that the formula Daniel Ortega Rosario Murillo obtained 74.99% of the votes counted. In this way, the government of the Sandinista National Liberation Front will lead the country until the year 2027. In second place was Walter Espinosa of the Constitutional Liberal Party with 14.40% of the votes counted. Citizen participation reached 65.34% with more than 1,400,000 votes cast. Thousands of Nicaraguans rejoiced after the announcement and took to the streets in sign of support to the re-election of Ortega and Murillo as legitimate leaders of Nicaragua.
We are celebrating the continuity of the revolution, more social projects for the people of Nicaragua. I'm celebrating another victory for the people of Nicaragua, one more victory. May the Sandinista National Liberation Front keep moving forward with Commander Daniel Ortega Saavedra, always forward.
While the U.S. and other Western powers try to legitimize Nicaragua's election outcome, Latin leaders congratulate President Daniel Ortega's re-election and foremost the victory of the Nicaraguan people. Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel took to Twitter and posted congratulations to the brother people of Nicaragua, to Daniel Ortega and Rosario Murillo for the result of the elections this Sunday, which were a demonstration of sovereignty and civility in the face of a cruel media campaign they suffer. Always have the support of Cuba. A hug. Evo Morales Ayma, former president of Bolivia and indigenous leader in that South American nations, also wrote in his Twitter profile, with insults, the United States tries to ignore the democratic and sovereign will of Nicaragua. The only pantomime is performed every day in the White House, where the so-called presidents, instead of serving their people, follow orders from transnational companies, armed industries, and the CIA. And the support of Nicaragua's elections outcome, the legitimate re-election of President Daniel Ortega and Vice President Rosario Murillo increases despite the Western and U.S. attempts to undermine it. Bolivia's government issued a communique through its foreign ministry where it acknowledges the high turnout in the Nicaraguan general elections, as well as the democratic will of the people of that country. And it concludes, we are certain that with a high participation and respect for the popular vote, democracy is strengthened as a full exercise of people's sovereignty. For its part, the Venezuelan government also supported Nicaragua. Venezuela's Foreign Minister Felix Plasencia tweeted a communicate the states, quote, the people of Sandino and the Rio have given the greatest demonstration of love for their homeland, of political maturity, and of popular resistance to the titanic pressures of imperialism. Also, the Executive Secretariat of ABA-TCP congratulates the Nicaraguan people for their democratic and civic vocation. It also congratulates Commander Daniel Ortega and Rosario Murillo for their re-election as President and Vice President of Nicaragua, respectively. President of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, congratulated the people of Nicaragua for successfully carrying out peaceful elections in the face of the international attacks from the United States government and its allies.
Good news, Ernesto. Good news coming from Nicaragua. Good level of popular participation in today's elections. People in peace. participating in the voting centers. We send greetings to the people of Nicaragua. We congratulate you in advance for this day of peace, of participation. To vote in Nicaragua, to vote in Venezuela, is to give a step to peace, to stability, to progress, for the prosperity of our countries. To vote today in Nicaragua is to vote for peace, is to vote for the country, is to vote for stability, for people's tranquility, for the rights to be beautiful Nicaragua. Nicaragua is a beautiful country. We know it very well.
Also in Nicaragua, international observers from Russia, Abkhazia, and South Ossetia held a press conference to give an assessment of their participation after monitoring the general election process in the country on this November 7th. The delegations made up of members of the legislative powers of the Eastern European nations highlighted the high level of citizen participation observed since early in the morning in the Central American nation. In addition, the accompanying delegations highlighted the organizational level of the Nicaraguan authorities, which they asserted has helped the process to take place in a transparent manner.
Based on what we are able to see by monitoring the electoral process and the preparation for the elections, we were able to confirm that the constitutional and legislative basis in electoral matters are providing everything necessary to carry out the process in an appropriate, transparent, and free environment.
I'm very impressed with the quality of the elections. Every polling station, we've been to many here in Leon, have the same rules, have the same access to the voter that the voters have, and access to the representatives of the different political parties, observing every step of the election. It's very transparent. It's very well organized and very impressive, and that's something we don't have in the United States. So I think this is a real reflection of the will of the people of Nicaragua, the way they've set up this election process.
We'll be right back after this very short break. Welcome back. On Monday, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov holds talks in Moscow with the Venezuelan counterpart Felix Plasencia. The high-level meeting comes after Venezuelan Foreign Minister proposed to hold the first meeting of the group of friends in defense of the UN Charter in Russia. In this regard, the Venezuelan high official commented that it would be the first meeting of the group held in a member country and not in the framework of a multilateral forum. Plasencia reiterated his perspective for the principles of the United Nations Charter and clarified that Moscow and Caracas are working on strengthening the group. At the meeting, Plasencia and Lavrov also reviewed the bilateral cooperation mechanisms in different areas.
Foreign Minister Lavrov, thank you for the invitation. For me, it is an honor to be here in Moscow, representing the people of Venezuela and Nicolas Maduro's government in this important nation. As the Foreign Minister said, we have reviewed the most important aspects of our bilateral agenda that are truly paramount.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said the bilateral relations between Moscow and Caracas are strong, despite U.S. attempts to undermine them.
Above all, we have proven that our relation is based on mutual trust, mutual gain, on stability, making it possible to answer any issue that arises. Despite different challenges, obviously in the last years, despite the risk sparked by the COVID-19 pandemic, and despite the unfriendly U.S. policies that try to prevent the development of Venezuela's economy and Venezuela's social sphere, all of these challenges, I say again, do not undermine the steady development of our strategic partnership.
In other news, in Italy, at least 800 migrants were rescued in the Mediterranean Sea by a humanitarian ship of a German non-governmental organization, CI. The migrants were found on 2 boats in the Mediterranean between Wednesday and Thursday. In the group, there are more than 200 children and 5 pregnant women, CI said in a statement. In addition, some 200 people had to receive medical attention on board. The Ocean Viking, a vessel managed by the European non-governmental organization SOS Méditerranée, is also looking for a port to disembark 340 migrants rescued at sea. In Mexico, the migrant caravan resumed its march headed to Oaxaca. The caravan is composed of over 3,000 people from 10 countries. The National Institute of Migration is asking those participating to return to Tapachula, Chiapas State, where they can receive assistance with applying for asylum rather than continuing the dangerous journey north towards the United States. The United States reopens its land and air borders to foreign visitors who feel vaccinated against COVID-19 on Monday. The measure ends 20 months of restrictions on travel from around the globe that separated families, tourism, and strained diplomatic ties. The ban imposed by former President Donald Trump in early 2020 and upheld by his successor, Joe Biden, has been widely criticized and become emblematic of the upheavals caused by the pandemic. Along the border with Mexico, many cities in the big U.S. states of Texas and California have seen significant economic downturn due to anti-COVID trade restrictions. Local economies are also impatiently waiting for a return to normal.
And we're just waiting for the people, our people, to come and visit us too. You know, it's going to help both El Paso and Juarez businesses and the economy.
Chinese authorities have reported that over 3/4 of the population has been fully vaccinated against COVID-19. The National Health Commission reported that 1.72 billion people have been immunized, which represents 75.96% of the population. In addition, the government is already providing booster shots to at-risk groups such as the elderly or customer workers. Almost 38 million shots have already been administered. Health authorities insisted that the objective of this action is the counteract of the outbreak, which have been spreading in some provinces since mid-October, which resulted in almost 900 cases of local transmission. Despite China's efforts to counteract the growth of COVID-19 infections, the National Health Commission announced the detection of 74 new positive cases of the virus, of which 50 correspond to local infections. 35% of more cases have also been confirmed. Health authorities are on high alert, fearing a further increase in the number of infections in some provinces. Africa records more than 8,500,000 infections and about 220,000 deaths as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. In the Africa CDC, the specialized healthcare agency of the African Union, said the death toll from the pandemic across the continent stands at over 218,000. South Africa, Morocco, Tunisia, and Ethiopia are among the countries with the most cases in the continent. South Africa has recorded the most COVID-19 cases in Africa, with nearly 3 million cases, while the northern African country of Morocco reported 947 cases. For its part, Tunisia recorded more than 700,000 contagions and more than 25,000 deaths. We have more stories coming up after this financial break. Welcome back. Sunday in Sudan, security forces repressed protesters who staged an unstable disobedience campaign against the army, which took cover in the coup of October 25th. Summoned by civil organizations A group of school teachers gathered on Sunday before the Ministry of Education in an act referred to as a silent protest. The mobilized citizens demand the re-establishment of a civil government that will lead to a democratic transition. This Sunday's protests were quelled by security agents who used tear gas, grenades to disperse the Pacific agglomeration. According to Sudanese medical authorities, the clash already resulted in 14 fatal victims since the beginning of the violent military sector's reaction. A tragedy that has prompted upon the current Sudanese de facto regime a series of claims from the global community, the state suspension from the African Union, and budget cuts from international aid providers. Niger's President Mohamed Bazoum visited the volatile border region on Saturday, the scene of an attack earlier in the week where suspected extremists ambushed a self-defense brigade and killed 69 people. The town's mayor was among those killed in Tuesday's attack. Bazoum said that insecurity had increased and compared it to a disease of endemic type, but he sought to reassure residents that it wouldn't last, promising the government was working to end it. Local self-defense groups have been helping Niger's military to fight extremists who have stepped up attacks on civilians this year. The attacks have been blamed on militants linked to ISIS. The mounting violence poses a strong threat to Bazoum, who was sworn into office in April, only days after security forces thwarted an attempted military coup at the presidential palace.
Insecurity has unfortunately not diminished. It has even increased everywhere. It is like an epidemic. It is like a disease of endemic type. But God willing, it will not last. We're working to end it.
And Libya's ruling Presidential Council has suspended Foreign Minister Nalia Mangush for administrative violations and barred her from traveling on Sunday. The spokeswoman for the council said the three-member body suspended Mangush on Saturday for carrying out foreign policy without coordination with the council. There was no immediate comment from the foreign minister, but Libya's transitional government of national unity rejected the council's decision in a statement. The clashes due to the suspension of Mangush comes after some controversial statements by the foreign minister about the possible extradition of a new suspect Libyan searched by the United States for the Lockerbie attack in 1988, which left a balance of 190 killers. In Palestine, demonstrators filled the streets in solidarity with the young prisoners on hunger strike in prisons of the Israeli occupation forces, whose lives are at risk. Holding banners and photographs of the prisoners, social sectors took the roads of the main towns of the Palestinian territory, demanding the immediate release of the prisoners, whose lives are in danger after a prolonged fasting protest. The director of international relations of the Palestinian Prisoners Club, Rayed Amir, said that the situation threatens a martyrdom of the striking prisoners at any moment. Likewise, the leader of the Islamic Jihad movement, Khaled al-Bach, confirmed that the mediators have made great strides in trying to put an end to the suffering of the political prisoners. United States Army occupation forces stationed in Syria withdrew this Monday from the territory of the Arab country in what is the largest evacuation in recent years. According to local sources, at least 270 vehicles left the illegal base of Kharab al-Jajir in the province of Hasaka in Syria towards northern Iraq. The caravan made up of 150 refrigerated trucks and 120 trailers carrying armored vehicles left Syrian territory, so the Al-Walid Pass. Members of the pro-U.S. militias settled in the area also accompanied the evacuation, the largest in the last few years. The United States Army has systematically supported armed groups and mercenaries opposed to the legitimate government in Damascus and has appropriated the vast oil riches on eastern Syria. On Monday, Iran urged the United States to remove economic sanctions against its country in exchange for its guarantee not to abandon the nuclear agreement and thus safeguard what was stipulated in 2015 deal. Spokesman Sayed Jabzadeh explained that once the economic sanctions against the country are lifted, the United States must guarantee respect for other nations and international laws, avoiding interference and meddling in the internal affairs of other countries. Therefore, he reiterated that there is there is no agreement with the nuclear contract, he will not be able to count on an official determination. Due to the situation, Kebizade insisted that the sanctions against the country must be lifted completely and effectively. Iraqi Prime Minister Mustafa Kazemi assured that those responsible for his assassination attempt late Sunday night will be arrested and identified at the authorities. The Prime Minister of Iraq assured that he knows well the perpetrators of the drone attack against his residence. During his statements, the Prime Minister also ratified that they will maintain the social stability of the country, guaranteeing the security of the country without being disturbed by any kind of aggression. The attack, which allegedly involved explosive-laden drones, came 2 days after clashes during protests in the capital Baghdad against the results of the country's October 10th general elections. We've come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at TeleSUR English. You can also follow us on social media for all the latest news. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Ray Gomez. Thank you for watching.